So at this time in our service, I would normally rattle off all sorts of announcements of all sorts of upcoming events. But the list is very short this week. As a matter of fact, it's non-existent because we don't know what's to be. We don't know what we are going to be able to plan and what we're not going to be able to plan. I know we're going to celebrate Shabbat next week. And I imagine there's a very good chance it's going to be right back here. So I want to share with you announcements that maybe you hadn't considered as announcements. One of the most powerful lessons that I learned during Hurricane Harvey was after Hurricane Harvey was something that someone said, having lived through and gotten through Hurricane Katrina. This person said that natural disasters, they don't create crises, they reveal them. And I think that to a certain extent that could be said as well about where we're at right now. It's difficult to live with so much uncertainty. But there are people, I consider myself one, who are better able to manage and cope with things getting upturned. And so the announcement I want to share with you this evening is that this is a moment when I encourage you to allow this crisis to reveal to you the crisis that's already been in existence. For people you know, people who you don't know. Imagine how much more difficult this is if you are someone who can't rely on a paycheck, who doesn't have a paycheck, who doesn't have a roof over their heads, or who doesn't have health insurance. I know it all feels so uncertain to all of us, and yet there is still what we can do. Even if it's simply picking up the phone and calling someone you know would appreciate the call. The simple gesture of saying, I know you, I care about you. So that's my announcements tonight. Because the truth is, everything else is rather unimportant. In the face of life and death, in the face of loneliness, in the face of sorrow, in the face of fear. And along these lines, I want to share with you what I consider to be an opportunity. We live our lives in such a way, and particularly with our jobs, by which we know here are the things that we have to get done, right? Like we have to get this event done, and we have to manage this task, right? And it's what we do in the effort of fulfilling whatever mission or goal we are striving for. So what happens when this happens? And all of a sudden, we can't do the stuff that was so critical that it had to be done, that there wasn't room for anything else. What if this moment in time is a catalyst to striving for the same mission or goals that we've striven for in our lives, in our professional lives, in our personal lives, in our actions, in our families. But we ask ourselves, is there another way forward? Imagine you were at a staff meeting or a retreat for work, or I don't know, you worked with a personal coach, and you got to a point where you had an idea of if I only had half of my day given back to me, right? All of a sudden I had 4 extra hours in a day. What would I do? And then you put that down, and they're like, yeah, but I'll never have that. That'll never happen. Well, guess what? You do. All of us, all of a sudden, have a ton of time that we could spend on a different way of seeking to achieve the goals and the missions that we've set out for ourselves. There isn't one way to achieve them. There isn't one path. I mean, even for us as educators, as a rabbi, as spiritual leaders, it's clear you got to get religious school done, right? And you got to do services, and you got to take care of all these things. Well, if all of a sudden you can't do them, we're still committed to Jewish life. We're still committed to inspiring Jewish people with Jewish wisdom and love. We're still committed, most importantly, to being present for people. But what if this has happened, which it has? How might you do it differently? How might you seek to achieve the same goals, but with very different media, right? With very different means to that end. Because it's the end that matters, ultimately. You want the means to be meaningful. And let's face it, sometimes the means that we are committed to are the same means we've committed to all the time, because it's what we know. To bring this full circle, the Torah portion is called Kitisa. And this is the Torah portion when the Israelites, the technical term is they freak out, right? Moses goes up on the mountain. He's up there for 40 days, and the Israelites freak out. They're nervous. They're scared. What's happened to that man? And what do? They build a golden calf. Why do they build a golden calf? Because it's what's familiar. It's what they know. It's what they knew from Egypt. So this is what they're going to do. And that's our tendency. This whole story is a parable for us, for all human beings who have ever lived. It's a parable for the struggle to break from what was and to be willing to embrace what could be. And it's not easy. And sometimes life throws us a significant curveball. So the question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to build a calf? Or are we going to stand up and step into a future with our commitments, with our values, with what we believe, and yet try it a different way? It's going to be scary. It is scary. And it's earth-shattering. Just the simple act of not shaking a hand, right? But let's face it. We've been giving each other colds by shaking hands for decades, for centuries. Has it always been a good idea? I don't know if we're going to get rid of the handshake, but think about it. The handshake is not the only way, right? The Japanese, they don't shake hands, right? They bow. Like, they figured this out. Of course, they're having problems, but still, right? We have to be willing to let go of the idols that we are so committed to in order to be able to break free and try something new. So that's my challenge to you and to me. How can we do things differently? Especially when we're being forced to. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.